The year is 2018, and PewDiePie is in trouble. He gave a shout out to the YouTuber known as ER.
ER, who does great video essays about, he did one on Death Note, which I really enjoyed.
The internet saw this, and the internet wasn't happy. ER was quickly labelled a neo-Nazi by companies like Vox and The Verge, as well as online political commentators such as Vorsh, Destiny, and Hassan Piker! But first, who is ER? Broadly, ER, short for Enigmatic Reality, is a video essayist. He makes detailed analytical reviews about films and TV franchises such as Star Wars, Death Note, and Avatar, as well as games like Life is Strange. Now, chances are you're not blind. You've read that title, so you know what I think. But let me ask you this. What did they think? What made them accuse this man of Nazism? Let's go through the evidence. ER tends to joke about topics like Nazis and race, but he goes about this much differently than most do. People generally make such jokes in overt ways, like saying Hitler did nothing wrong, ironically, to get a laugh. On the other hand, ER makes these jokes more subtly and more confusingly, where he'll either hint at Nazi references and conspiracies, or he'll make more overtly racist statements, and then he'll try to rationalize them. For example, in his Death Note video, he made this joke.
Death Note had this rule. In the occasion where the cause of death is possible but the situation is not, only the cause of death will take effect for that victim. If both the cause and the situation are impossible, that victim will die of a heart attack. So, for example, say you write the name of a woman and that she will die by being struck by a car. However, there's too much shit in the way for a car to hit her. Because the situation is impossible, and thus the cause of death as well, the woman would die of a heart attack. Deathflix didn't get far enough into reading the rules on the Wikia page.
Just so you guys know, that's Heather Heyer. Like that's the footage he used from the.
In 2017, there was a white supremacist rally known as Unite the Right taking place in Charlottesville. And with that, there was a peaceful protest against that rally. Heather Heyer was someone part of the protest and got run over by a car, leading to her death. Nazi conspiracy theorists claim she died of a heart attack, and that's the conspiracy theory ER is presenting. In his now deleted Steven Universe video, he plays a 4-minute long clip from one of Hitler's speeches, whilst subtitling it and showing modern day imagery, which is supposed to correspond to Hitler's rhetoric about Jews and the collapse of civilization. This was interpreted as ER using his channel to disseminate Nazi propaganda, especially since at the end he implies that he is the second coming of Hitler who will bring back Nazism. Another example includes him referring to his Patreon as the Shameless Shekel Shakedown. For those who don't know, shekels are the Israeli currency. This plays into the idea that Jewish people are greedy and money hungry, as Israel has a largely Jewish population. There's also this, which speaks for itself. There are so many other jokes I could bring up, but if I went through all of them, we'd be here all day. But as it stands, this in and of itself makes it really hard to tell if ER actually believes what he's saying. The main point of ironic Nazi jokes is to make egregiously wild statements to portray such beliefs as insane, and generally, the best way to do this is to be blunt, overt, and snappy, to maximize the shock value. But when these jokes are made subtly, and when they go on and on, it seems counterintuitive to that goal, so it makes sense that people would suspect an ulterior motive. Many people concluded that he was a Nazi due to his Gab account, as on there he said that he was just pretending to make Nazi jokes so that he could red pill people, which at the time meant that he wanted to radicalize his audience into Nazi ideology. Now it means something else entirely. But the new red pill isn't too far off. All of this being said, it's a compelling case to accuse someone, and I don't blame people for coming to that conclusion. But this is only one half of the story, and there is another half which barely anyone has covered. Let's take a look at the counter evidence. Firstly, I don't think he has any intention of radicalizing people. Why? Because in one of his videos, he explicitly stated that he doesn't want children watching his videos. If he was aiming to radicalize people in his audience, why'd he say this? Especially since children are the most impressionable and vulnerable to this kind of indoctrination. Furthermore, making subtle jokes and references to conspiracy theories doesn't necessarily mean that you believe them. His Pokemon challenges making a subtle reference to 9/11 in a Nuzlocke video of his.
Flannery herself is a very polarizing gym leader in Emerald Kaizo. You either have a Pokemon that can sweep most of her team, or she's the hardest gym leader in the game that'll send you back home faster than my flight instructor did me after I told him that I wanted to get my pilot's license because of my immense interest in researching steel beam integrity.
He's referring to the jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams argument for why 9/11 is an inside job, but I doubt he actually believes what he's saying. At the same time, one of ER's accusers, Destiny, found the conspiracy joke funny.
So, for example, say you write the name of a woman and that she will die by being struck by a car. However, there's too much shit in the way for a car to hit her. Because the situation is impossible, and thus the cause of death as well, the woman would die of a heart attack. Deathflix didn't get far enough.
Oh my god.
So it isn't necessary to be a Nazi to enjoy this type of humor. Speaking more on the Charlottesville joke, why would he show the video of the car running people over if he wanted people to think Heather Heyer didn't die from getting run over? That seems very counterproductive to me. Regarding the Hitler speech, he went on the Anime Boomers podcast recently, where he explained why he actually made that joke. This is what he had to say.
Your Steven Universe video did have a Hitler speech in it.
It did. It did.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, the point is that, Steven becomes Hitler, which, is,
That's
worse
canon,
for him to
actually.
become at that point. But it is kind of, isn't it? Well, or more that he, forgives Space Hitler or something
Forgives
like
Hitler,
that.
yes.
Yeah.
It's
Which
okay,
is,
guys. She says she's sorry.
She says she's sorry for destroying
right, it's
who knows how many planets and her own people on planet. Anyway.
But there's more to it than just the possibility that he may be joking. There are actual statements he's made and positions he's held which are untenable with Nazi ideology.
All I know for certain is that I can never look up to Mike and Brian like I did as a child. For me, they have lost their godhood status, and that probably pains me as much as watching one of my favorite shows, one that shaped me as a person, be retroactively castrated.
Avatar: The Last Airbender is a show which condemns the Fire Nation for actions such as the genocide of an entire race and invading other countries. The main things that the Nazis did. In fact, this is one of the things ER said in one of his videos.
Another thing, all this hocus pocus kind of undermines the weight of the air nomad genocide. It doesn't undo any of it, of course. Those people were killed and they're gone for good. But it used to be that with them, they'd also taken the Sky Bison's ancient psychic art of airbending. Aang used to be all they had left to pass that on, the last airbender. Then that fell to Tenzin and his family. It would take who knows how many generations to restore the Air Nation, if they could manage it at all. That's the weight I'm talking about, a heavy consequence of one of the most malicious acts the world had ever seen, scarring it for uncountable years to come.
Now, you may think that ER sees the Airbender genocide as analogous to the white genocide, which is the conspiracy theory that white people are slowly being eradicated by Jews who bring in immigrants, somehow. However, this is nonsense. For starters, there's a massive difference between the violent Airbender genocide and genocide by immigration. And nobody is stupid enough to think that the creators of Avatar were trying to talk about white genocide in a children's show on Nickelodeon. But there's even more proof. On his Twitter, he's made multiple comparisons between the Nazis and the Fire Nation. This includes jokingly denying the Airbender genocide, similar to how people deny the Holocaust, and calling Azula an irredeemable monster, and then comparing her to a 14-year-old Nazi girl. He also condemned Jet, someone who wanted to kill people just based on their Fire Nation heritage. So quite clearly he's against the concept of racism in and of themselves, which is more than I can say about some people. Talking about his Twitter further, there's even more insight into his actual character. He once made an entire thread to talk about how film can be a pretty good tool for spreading anti-racist messaging, and as for the N-word joke, his Twitter bio says that he's black, or at least that he identifies as black. So I don't think he hates black people. To conclude, while I don't know ER personally, I can inductively reason that he's not a Nazi. The things he says in his videos are just jokes, and while you might think that they are bad jokes, I think they're quite irresponsible, they're not what he actually believes. Thanks for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe since I have 0 subscribers. I plan to do a lot more analytical videos on topics such as film, gaming, and internet culture. Until next time, may the YouTube algorithm be with you, because it certainly isn't with me.